The reason why is because I really do truly believe everyone needs a colonic. It doesn't matter if you go to the bathroom every day. There's so much that gets stuck and stored in there that you'd be surprised. And everything does truly start in your colon.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Her Table, Her Rules. I'm your host, Juliet Peters, and I'm super excited today to have someone in the studio that I've actually met before, Carolyn Berry, who has 5 clinics called Clean Colonic. And it's going to be a really interesting conversation to talk to somebody who is actually scaled to that level, because opening 5 brick and mortar locations as, you know, an individual business is unique, doesn't always happen. And kind of the whole idea of whether or not you're going to be franchising, what goes into that decision making for you. And so I'm really thrilled you're here.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of first how you started your, your business, because you're not in what I would say, the run of the mill kind of business, right?
Not super common.
Not super common. So, and also, to be fair, has definitely had its share of knocks over the years, right? So tell me about how you ended up doing this to begin with.
Sure. Yeah. I actually had tons of problems physically and with my uterus, and I had tons of food allergies. So for years, for like 20 years, I was trying to figure out what was going on with me. And my gyno said, well, if you get on the birth control, that'll solve your problems. And then I did that, and I ended up getting blood clots. So then they had to take me off of that. And then later into my 20s, I kept suffering. But I went back to my doctor after suffering for 20 years. And the only thing she could say was, you're going to have to get a hysterectomy. So I literally started saying goodbye to my uterus. I was like, I've been trying to deal with you for 20 years. I mean, I went on every holistic diet I could think of. I did the Eat Right for Your Blood Type. I did all these cleanses.
Yeah.
I remember endometriosis, they said to stay away from meat. So I did that for the longest time. I went vegan for 8 years. Yeah, I tried all the things. So then I finally was like, okay, I'm just going to have to take it out. And then a friend of mine said, you should go get a colonic. And right away I was like, why would I do that? What does that even have to do with my uterus?
Right.
So out of desperation, I thought, okay, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
And when I went in, the therapist was telling me everything starts in the gut. So I did. I signed up for 10. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And around day 6, I was frustrated. I started crying. I was just thinking, here I am wasting my time and money again. And the only reason why I came back is because I prepaid for 10.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm not going to waste my money. I might as well just finish them out. And then on day 7 is what I called it was like the release of everything. I couldn't believe how much was locked away in my colon. And I was so surprised that I just decided to keep going. So I finished out my 10, but I literally went to the front desk and said, here's my credit card. I'm going to take 10 more because what else is in there? Yeah. And then the very next month, I had no problems with my cycle.
That's
so
amazing.
that really started to get me thinking like, oh my gosh, the whole world needs to get a colonic. I mean, I had no idea that, first of all, I wasn't constipated. I went to the bathroom all the time. That's why I didn't even think I needed a colonic. I didn't know it was related. Yeah. And then after that, a couple of months later, I decided to start eating some of the foods I was allergic to, because I had like a laundry list of food. Used to have to walk around with liquid Benadryl. It didn't matter what I ate. Yeah. It just kept getting worse. I would swell up and look like I was 5 months pregnant. I was in a lot of pain. And so I remember eating my first cheese pizza, because cheese pizza put me in the hospital once. Yeah. So when I finally had that, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not swelling up. I'm not bloated. And to this day, I have 0 food allergies.
It's amazing.
So yeah. And then I decided I actually didn't want to be a colon hydrotherapist. I didn't want to open a clinic. I had just written a book and I was doing all these other amazing things, and I was resistant to it. But then I realized that there was so much integrity that needed to happen with colon hydrotherapy. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I opened up my first clinic.
That's amazing. And from 1, you now have 5.
Yeah. So that was even interesting too, because when I started the 1, I was working on my 1 device for 2 years. I never left the room. I had great conversations with my clients, and it taught me a lot, because I would see most people have their breakthrough around the same time I did, around session 7 or 8. So I knew that there was an education that had to happen, because if they were like me, they think, oh, I just need 1 colonic and I'm going to get cleaned out. But there's really like a process. And then after 2 years, one of my clients said, I think you should grow and move into your own clinic. And I did. I decided to take a leap of faith. I took that 1 device, bought 2 more, and then created my first clinic type model. Yeah. And then after that 2 months, I was like, wow, I could really do this. I think I could have multiple clinics. And the 2 months later, I opened up my second, and Now I have 5. I never thought in a million years that this would be my business for one. And then secondly, that I would have 5. And the reason why is because I really do truly believe everyone needs a colonic. It doesn't matter if you're going to the bathroom every day. There's so much that gets stuck and stored in there that you'd be surprised. And everything does truly start in your colon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, more and more we're finding out, right, that is absolutely true.
Yep. Second brain. There's more and more research happening around that.
Exactly.
Yep.
So let's talk about the scaling thing though, because to go from 1 to 5 is a lot, right? So you're dealing with multiple real estate, issues. You got to find space. You got to deal with leases. You are getting a whole education in employing people and the vagaries of people.
Yes, that's so true.
Right? And so, what do you think, like if you had to boil it down to what are the 3 biggest things you've learned in your personal journey of scaling?
I think definitely leadership and, operations from an employee standpoint. Because not only have I opened up 5 locations, I do travel to Fiji quite often to do colonics over there, and which is a great experience, but it showed me all of the holes in my business. So I realized, okay, there's leadership missing. There's processes. There's, just a lot of things that I wasn't there. So I had to fill those holes and those gaps. So, I mean, I think it took me 5 years into my business before I wrote an employee handbook. So I thought, okay, you need to be specific all the way down to, what are you supposed to wear? How do I want your hair to be done? What specific scrubs I want you to wear? All those little details. So then, because you hope that some people will have common sense, but it's not written, they won't know. So
if only people had common sense.
Yeah, I know. So, each time I'm like, oh, I should add that to my employee handbook. So I keep improving it over time. I'd say, definitely the operations of the business, writing that down. Scripts are really important. Even answering the phones and questions, just really empowering employees. So they need to have that all written down. And then also just having a good support system as well is important too. Whether, if it's not family, it's finding people that are also trying to scale or have a business as well. So you can run those conversations by people. What happens when an employee does this? Or how should I respond to a customer? Because as you get bigger, you have more to lose.
Yes.
And the more eyes are on you too as well. Especially for me, because I'm kind of an industry leader. There's nobody doing what I'm doing on a level like this.
Yeah, and we should talk about that just because, you traveled to Fiji because you're working with Tony Robbins, right? You do.
Yeah, he has one program called Life and Wealth Mastery.
Yeah.
And he has a whole clinic there that's set up for colonics.
Yeah.
And so when people travel over there for that part of it, they're doing a cleanse. Yeah. And then they come down and do the colonic and go back up. So it's really amazing. Even from a scale standpoint, I never thought in a million years that opening of this business would take me to Fiji for that.
Right.
So
that's amazing.
It's been around for a really long time. And I am still shocked that people still are not aware of colon hydrotherapy and how important it is. And that's why, I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to keep opening myself. But then I realized there's capital, there's responsibility, there's all these things that makes it a little bit more difficult. And that's why I decided to franchise, because at least now I can find business partners who see the vision and also are business minded that will help me grow.
One of the things, though, that I think you're doing differently than people who, obviously in my day job, I'm a lawyer and have a franchising background. So this is right up my alley, so to speak. But one of the things that I think is different about the way you've approached it is a lot of times people will come to see me. They have one location open, whatever the location is, whatever it is they're doing, right? And they want to build a franchise system off of that one location. You are really doing it differently, which is you've continued to scale while you're kind of in the process of putting the franchise together. And the reason that's really smart is because you're testing the system. One of the things that's really unfortunate about franchising is that the franchisor doesn't have to be particularly successful in order to franchise. They may have a good idea, but they may not be the best operator. For you, you're operating, right? And you're testing what happens at scale, right? And that, I think, puts you ahead of the pack in terms of franchise potential growth because you don't have just one location when you go to do your franchise disclosure document, right?
Yes.
You have multiple units that you're running and they all have different P&Ls, and that is way, way better, right?
Absolutely.
So, but tell me on the, I know you haven't sold a franchise yet, right?
Correct.
So tell me, and so you're probably not in necessarily the active sales cycle. That's the other kind of downside, that people who think they're going to go down the franchise road as franchisors, they don't realize they got to turn their whole, operation towards sales, because that's what you're doing. You're selling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where I've tried to put people in place now, because I've realized, even though I set up my franchise a couple years ago and I thought I would have sold one by now, but I realized my focus isn't there 100%. I'm still building the business. I'm still traveling over to Fiji 7 times a year. And so I really don't like to use that word busy. I've just tried to stay away from that. But I've had to realistically look at my schedule and decide, okay, what is my focus? What do I want to do? I want to build my brand, and I definitely want to focus on the franchising. So there is little parts of the business that I can improve and scale still, so that way the franchise is more attractive. But I also realize still that it's still a new industry.
Yeah.
And more and more people are finding about colonics. I mean, I've heard on certain series and TVs that people are a little bit more aware of it. So I think that's going to help. But at least I know I'm in a position when it's going to take off, I'll be the one to go to. That's the exciting part for me.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I think I think that lends so much credibility to your sales effort when you begin to sell franchises, because you've continued to grow the business. And you're not dependent, that's a nice to have. It's not a have to have.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that the thing is that people, it's also not easy to open a bunch of locations. There is a lot of revenue you need to commit to that. You got to look for leases. Every landlord wants something different.
Yes.
Every lease is different.
Yep.
It's not easy at all to do what you've done.
Yeah. One of the reasons, because I had to look at that and say, is it just me? Am I amazing at what I do as Carolyn? Or do I have something? So I actually helped 2 people open up a clinic. One was in Colorado. She was a client of mine and said, can I hire you as a consultant to help me open a business?
Yeah.
So I did. I created her whole website. I gave her all the information. I never even visited her, but we had conversation of, this is what you want to do to find your lease. This is the plumber that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing in Illinois, and they both walked away from their jobs. They're both successful. So I thought, oh my gosh, it's my model. It works. And I can duplicate this without even having to go there if I don't need to. And that's when I decided, okay, I do need to franchise, because I can set people up in a way that I can support them without necessarily having to be there.
Yeah, that's the key. And the other kind of caveat is, when you're a new franchisor and you have a new franchise system, the downside for potential franchisees is that you don't have the support.
Yes.
Because they're bootstrapping and they aren't in the weeds of the operations. You have been in the weeds of your own operations.
Absolutely. And I did realize, I think I made the decision maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It must have been 4 years ago. And I kind of stopped seeing clients at most of my clinics. I do see people in my Fountain Hills location when I'm in town, because I do like that one-on-one, but I maybe see 5 people a week, if that, because I know that I need to be focusing on the business and building it and I've changed already. I started out, I used to have saunas. I took those out. Now we have a sound table, because I'm finding out that
sound therapy.
Yes, the vibrational acoustic therapy tables are amazing. You lay on that for even 10 minutes, and then it puts you into that relaxation state, and then you release a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's great to be able to give my franchisees options. This is what's worked for me. This is why I've done it. But there's a lot of flexibility there too as well. So, I'm excited to find those partners. I know they're out there and they're on their way.
Yeah, absolutely. You're calling it in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's really a journey. What do you think that, really, I want to say that this conversation is unusual, because very rarely do I see female entrepreneurs who are really just have done it. There's a lot, you seem to have a lot less resistance to what you're doing than sometimes I find with other people, particularly around team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Team is so stressful. And I think it becomes even more stressful for female entrepreneurs because they want a lot of times to have a good team, right?
Yes.
And they're concerned about growing their team and putting effort into the team. And then when the team does not sort of produce or reacts differently than you expect the team to react, right? Then it becomes a negative and it sets people back. You don't seem to have that.
No.
So what's the secret sauce of that?
I think maybe because I don't let it affect me, or I let it be a part. It's not a thing. I don't really think about it.
Yeah.
So when it happens, I'm shocked. So I'll give you an example. There was a time I was looking at a place in Chandler, and I never met the owner. They were working with my leasing agent. So he didn't accept me. I had 4 locations, but he didn't accept me. And one of the things he said was because I wasn't married.
Oh,
and I thought,
my
because I needed
God.
to have a husband co-signer. And I was like, what? I mean, there's the high pitch of like, what?
Oh, my Lord.
I have 4 locations. And then he was worried about me not settling here and just moving. And you know, I had 2 choices. I was like, I can get upset about it,
Right.
or I could just be like his loss and move on. So I did. I processed it emotionally, like, wow. I don't know if I could say douchebag on the air.
Yes, you can.
You know,
Go for it
I just
with
really,
relish.
I just really was like, okay. So then there's things that come up like that I was shocked, like in this day and age that still happens. And I ended up opening across the street from this person and in another center. And it was just by pure accident. So, you know, and then there's dealing with contractors too. I think as much as I can, there's just a different conversation. I've actually watched it and I thought, well, maybe I should hire a male to have those conversations. And then I just like let that thought go too, because I was like, no, I'm not changing or having to accommodate or adapt. They're going to have to do that if, you know, I just kind of bowl through it.
Yeah, that's amazing though, because I think that to bowl through it without attitude, which is what I'm kind of sensing from you. You just, you know, we all take those knocks sometimes and it is shocking when someone says something crazy like that. I was talking to a client, and landlords are known for saying crazy stuff. But I was talking to somebody that I know that owns a business, and they're getting up there in years, and their leasing agent, of course, there's no laws related to commercial leasing. So their leasing agent said to them, or the landlord's rep, it wasn't the leasing agent, said, we're not going to renew your lease because you should be retiring. You're too old to run your business. Literally what the landlord said. And so what I'm amazed by, though, is when you recount that story, you just don't have anger around it. That's really because I don't know that I would be able to do that.
You know, it's funny because my friends for the longest time, they're always like, how do you move past that? I just process things really fast. I don't hold on to anything. Now, it doesn't mean I ignore it, because I'm a very emotional person. So when it happens, like another time, because I look at whether they're male or female, to me, I've had female relationships in business that have surprisingly stabbed me in the back. And I remember this one time I had a business, this is before software was really big in booking appointments. We had this booking appointment software.
Yeah.
And we severed our relationship, and it was so hurtful. I had to be real with myself. I said, you know, I need to process this for at least like 2 weeks. And then after my 2 weeks, I thought, oh, I need another week because it's still there. I'm still angry. And because I don't deny, I keep processing it until it's gone. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm done. Yeah. And then I just move on. So sometimes that could be a day or it could be a week. But the thing is, I keep feeling it until I don't feel it anymore.
So that's really that's a pearl of wisdom to me, is you're actively working through it. You're not pushing yourself to work through it. You work through it whenever you work through it. But once you work through it, you're done with it.
Yeah, totally. My last location, again, I had so many issues. I thought I was going to open up in February and end up being June, but I literally had a plumber walk off the job. And I didn't even know this. He didn't pass the inspection, and then he had to come back and redo some work. And I found out from the city that he didn't do it, and he just had to walk off. And same thing, I was like, oh my gosh, he cost me time. He cost me money, right? I did all these things that I did in my mind. I went through my process. And then I was like, okay, breathe. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that I can do about it. You know, I mean, clearly he's on my do not hire list, you know? And then you go through, like the old version of Carolyn is like, how can I ruin his business? What can I say? You know, all these things, but that's just not me, because I don't hold on to the anger. that energy is such a low frequency that I need to stand my ground and just keep moving through it. And I think that's why I've been successful in building the business too,
Yeah.
because I've been staying in that energy. You know, I feel very blessed, and I've worked through a lot of stuff that I know that it's just going to keep happening as long as I stay true to that. And I don't hold on to the anger or the negativity or all those things that come across, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I don't live in a world where like, oh, everything's love and light. No, we live in a body and things happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to deal with that when it comes up. And then how quickly can I deal with it and move on so I can keep focused on my outcome and my goals and really what I would say, like, you know, healing one bottom at a time.
I love it.
Yeah.
Healing one bottom at a time.
Yes.
Okay.
I just had to throw it on laughter there.
I love it. The last, I'm sorry, we're running out of time.
Okay.
And this has been such a great conversation. But what I want to ask you is, so you built your table, and with bottoms.
Yes.
And what is the rule that you have applied to your business that you think would resonate with any woman who was building a business?
I would it's what we just talked about is really like, you know, work through everything that you're coming across and just keep going and moving on. You know, if you got to cry it out, you got to go to the gym and work it out. You talk it out, whatever that process is, do it, focus on your goal and keep reaching for it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
Carolyn
you.
Berry from Clean Colonics. You can, they have a great website. You can go there and get your bottom healed. So
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you. And we'll see you next time on Her Table, Her Rules.